fucking bad.
Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche podcast. AJ and Rudo coming to you live on a Friday of the offseason as we're going to get into answering some of y'all's listener questions. Viewer questions? I guess it depends on how you consume the podcast. Either way, we're answering your questions.
Rudo.
AJ.
How do you know when the moon is totally broke?
How?
It's down to its last quarter. I like that one more than yesterday's, which I don't remember at all because neither one of us liked it.
So is your money waning? Is that the...
Yeah.
Got him.
Always. Always waning.
My bank account's never waxing.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
It waxes for like 30 seconds when I get that email saying
on
I got
payday.
paid. And then all the bills come out.
Yeah,
and you're
it doesn't
like,
really wax. It's just at that number and then goes back down.
It's true.
Unfortunate, to say the least. I don't want to know what you call a reluctant potato, do I?
No.
Hesitator. Hilarious. Got him. Fortunately, we do have to answer things in not puns today as well.
Good.
So, actually getting into some hockey talk here. We have a bunch of questions on Twitter that we will answer. I think we'll probably get to some chat questions as well a little bit later in the show. Starting things off with one from Nick. Who are you rooting for to win the cup this year now that the Avs are out, and who are you rooting against?
Against is the entire Western Conference.
Yep.
No Vegas because their fans are already the worst. The same thing for Edmonton.
Yep.
Dallas for so many reasons.
Yep.
And then Seattle, it's their second year. You just don't get, you know.
That's
the answer is no.
That's how Seattle becomes Vegas 2.0.
Exactly. They're dangerously close to that territory already. Out east, I mean, Carolina and Florida are totally inoffensive.
Yeah.
Florida's never won one, so that would be cool.
That's where I'm rooting for Florida because they're the team that hasn't won one and the team that has been around for 20 plus years, right?
Yeah.
It's not like Seattle and Vegas haven't won one. Yeah, well, they haven't even been around for even 10 years.
Yeah, and Carolina, I've always had a soft spot for Carolina.
They're always fun.
I think what they've accomplished with the injuries that they've had has been remarkable. So I'm all about. I mean, they're great, man. They're great. What do you say?
Definitely not rooting for the Leafs either.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I would put it that way.
The Leafs are the exact same as the Chicago Cubs were, where their fans had cornered the market on misery and knew it. And so the second that they get any kind of success and or any kind of fun, they're the most insufferable, worst people on the planet. Mm-hmm. So I'm good. I'll pass on them ever having any kind of success ever. Yep. And then, of course, if they actually have it, I'll talk myself into. There are people who have been alive for a really long time and never gotten to see their team do the thing.
I mean, don't get it twisted. As far as fan bases are concerned, I would love every fan to get their cup eventually.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual teams, the only one I'm actively rooting for right now is Florida.
Yeah. I think Florida, like to root for Florida, and then if Carolina wins it, cool. I'm cool with that, man.
Sure.
They run a great program. They've got a ton of smart people there. They are everything that kind of a smaller market in terms of its population should aspire to be. Super passionate. Yep. Really interesting the way that they've gone about it. Really smart front office. For me, from an organizational building standpoint, I think that it's all respect for Carolina.
All right, we'll stay with the playoff conversation here. A question from Navin, who asks, watching the Dallas Kraken series, seeing how the Avs dominated Kraken in Game 7, if they had won that game, do you think they had a chance against Dallas? The short answer is, would they have had a chance against Dallas? Probably, assuming the return of Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Without Val, I think that series is pretty tough for them.
I think it would have been even with him. I think it's asking a lot. It's a hard series. You would have needed way better performances from, so many guys.
Everyone not named McKinnon and Rantanen, basically.
Yeah, Lehkonen and Rodriguez gave you everything that you could reasonably ask for from those guys.
Sure,
you had four of your forwards you felt good about. Every single other guy
you
needed to give you more.
Arguably needed more from Makar at times in the series.
A little bit more, but you really needed more from Bo Byram. And
definitely.
Offensively, you needed just a touch more from Sam Girard. Because
Agree.
defensively, I didn't have an issue with Girard in that series.
Yeah. But
and the Johnsons survived. They were okay at times.
Again, I get injuries were there, but the Avs went 7 games without a single depth goal.
Yeah.
Hard to win series like that.
Yeah, for sure. And you just imagine, I would say I would not have picked them to win it because what else would have happened in that series? Talking about the most cursed team of all time. What else was going to go wrong?
Yeah. Just waiting for a disaster to happen.
Yeah, Nichushkin might have come back and then turned around and gotten hurt.
Yeah. It did feel like that kind of a year.
Yeah,
a little bit.
and we know that Lehkonen broke his toe somewhere in there, right after he got back from the broken finger.
Gotta watch those digits, Lecky. Honestly,
dude. It was just an absurd year where it was I think I've been so underwhelmed by Dallas in that series, that I can't help but feel like the Avs would have at least made it interesting. I don't know how long it would have gone, but they could have, for all I know, the Avs could have gotten swept in 4 overtime games.
the way the Avs luck had gone, Jake Ottinger would have shut them out 4 times in a row.
But they would have lost all 4 games 1-0.
Yeah, worst series of all time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's exactly what it would have felt like. Yeah, but watching it, I definitely can't help but feel like they would have at least been competitive.
Yeah, I do think so as well. Dallas has looked pretty darn mortal in this series.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on from the playoffs a little bit here. Let's start with this question because it's a little bit.
Oh boy.
Fun. No, I just don't think we'll have a very long answer to it.
Okay.
I have an answer if you don't, for the record. I'm trying to find who sent it. But the question was, what is the best song about hockey?
I don't know.
It's from Lyle, and he says, "Why is it Helmet Head by Great Big Sea?" Which I haven't even heard before. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't say that that's a genre that I have a whole lot of experience in. I never really thought to I'll tell you the Houston Aeros intro song when they would come onto the ice.
You were about it.
Was like a metal song that was made by.
Did Pantera do that also? Because I know they did the Dallas one.
Yeah, no. It was a local band in Houston that did it, and it rocked.
It was a banger.
It was heavy though, and it was loud, and it was not popular with everybody there, but I loved it because it was angry, and I was like, this is hockey. Especially minor league hockey. It was like, yeah.
So I have a few. First of all, anything by our boy Gregor Jens.
Yeah. Okay.
The Mikko Rantanen song.
The Mikko Rantanen song gets sung at the bar on a regular basis. Yeah.
He also did another song actually about the Avs, as a whole, which is dope. And then The Number One Cop by the Hextalls, song about Sergei Bobrovsky that is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of. So those are my 2.
All right.
And we can all agree that the Hockey Night in Canada song isn't good.
Isn't good?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
It's fine. I just don't.
It's a great jingle.
It's a jingle. That's fair. It's a jingle. It's
I
not
think
a song.
that's not the same as a song.
All right. I agree with this conversation. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good on this one. So a lot of questions from a handful of people surrounding Gabe Landeskog's LTIR situation and how they should use it. For starters, just mechanically, this one comes from Chippy, who says, under what kind of non-injury scenarios might the Avs have a player's cap hit back available to them? Never.
Yeah.
The only way to get that cap hit back is LTIR, or you could buy them out to get a portion of it back in the immediate. You end up paying that off across multiple years if you buy out the contract.
Yeah, so we're 2 years into Landy's deal. Mm-hmm. So if they bought him out, he would be on their books for 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be on their books for 12 years.
So, yeah. It would not be an option, and there isn't really any other way. I'm sure there would be some extreme circumstance if something crazy happened, but for the most part, LTIR is only for injuries, and that's the only way you get cap relief.
Yeah, I mean, a guy could retire.
Yeah, and
it's a little different.
And there's like weird cap recapture
the
things,
recapture stuff,
which used to be a big thing, and then they changed it.
Yeah, after the Shea Weber threat, where it was like his recapture if he was going to retire,
he was going to retire as a
would
Canadian,
have been $32 million or whatever.
Like actually make it impossible for Nashville to ice a team.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah,
I was very hopeful it was going to happen. It just would have been fun.
It would have been pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it would have been fun.
I mean, we got the second best thing with the buyouts of Parise and Suter, so it's kind of similar.
It was pretty fun.
Minnesota still managed to put a decent team together, so no excuses, Nashville. That's where I'm at. But
yeah, this Minnesota thing, man, it is.
It's a thing.
I just think it's interesting that they are able to put together like this really mediocre roster
and get by with it.
It's fine
so effectively. Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, this isn't a bad hockey team, but I don't know. They kind of went away in that series.
Yeah, I mean, and same thing happened to them last year too.
Losing 6, and it's just like, all right.
Yep. They just don't have the stuff to put them over the top.
Yeah.
And Dean Evison randomly starting Marc-Andre Fleury didn't help.
Oh, well, I mean, that was such a... Flower didn't deserve to get lit up, but Dean Evison did, kind of thing.
For sure. I am on board with that take. But the Gabe Landeskog situation, I'm not going to shout out all of you because a lot of you talked about it. We'll get into specifically how they should fill it in a little bit. But mechanically... I have a lot of people asking if they should target a multi-year deal with Landeskog.
No.
On top of the idea that maybe the salary cap is going up in the near future.
Yeah, if you want to use the my answer is still no.
Okay.
Because you still have the very real world that you have to give Devon Toews a new deal or you've got to find a replacement.
Yep.
You know?
I hear you. There's other money to be spent in the Avs roster.
So going out and getting Tyler Bertuzzi doesn't answer that question. It doesn't solve anything for you. And if you have a conversation with Devon Toews this summer and he's like, hey, I want $9 million, the Avs just can't. I mean, they just can't go there. I don't think he has a leg to stand on to get paid $9 million at 30 years old already. His new deal will start when he's 31.
But free agency is a hell of a drug.
Well, and you just trying to find a contract comp is like, man, it would be tough.
Yeah.
Because most of them are legacy type guys like Hedman or Doughty.
For sure. That have been with that team forever.
Or a Vlasic even. You know, guys that have been around forever. But a 31-year-old Devon Toews, I mean, I don't even know what I would offer him. Honestly, I don't even know what I would offer him off the top of my head. I don't know what that extension would look like.
7 by 5.
That's kind of the neighborhood that I'm sitting in, but I'm not. Do I really?
Definitely not dead set on it. That was just off the top of the head.
Even at five years, man, it makes me nervous because he's 36 years old.
Yeah.
When does that aging start?
That is the question. And,
he hasn't had any major injuries. His physical abilities, like his physical the tools are not an enormous part of his success.
Right. The things that he's good at, certainly on the defensive side, shouldn't drop off that much, right? He's so good at reading the play.
I don't understand where all the people come from this year talking about, well, Devon Toews took a step back or was nowhere near as good or had a bad year. Devon Toews had a bad series against the Kraken. I'm like, because you go and you're like, there are moments that you remember from the year where you're like,
I mean,
wow,
I think
we don't expect Devon Toews to make that mistake, or we don't expect this from Devon Toews. But at the end of the year, he was a top pairing quality defenseman who's part of one of the best pairings in the NHL. And then in the postseason, he had a couple of big time blunders and then more than made up for them.
So, two things here why I think this happens with players like Devon Toews. One, every time he makes a good defensive play, nobody remembers it because it's not a highlight reel thing. It's just him doing his job and taking care of business. So I think people kind of undermine the idea of him having a good season. And two, during the regular season, I think a lot of the things that people remember from Toews' year is all of the missed open nets on backdoors and things like that. Because those are the ones that get highlights, get circulated, and you see, oh, man, Devon Toews could have had a 15-goal season if he just put the puck into an open net, which is true. You wanted more offense out of Devon Toews this year. But that doesn't mean he had a bad year.
Yeah, I see this conversation cropping up more and more about Devon Toews' like bad season or his down year or whatever. And I guess it's fair to say, was he as good as he was 2 years ago? No.
When he was a top 5 defenseman in the world.
When he was legit a top 10.
He finished what, like, 7th or 6th in Calder or in Norris voting?
It was like 8 or 9.
Was it 8?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean he got
a good
Norris,
number of Norris votes.
Yeah, he got a couple of Norris votes.
Yeah. So,
and like that's absurd. And so for him to not have been that good, yep, I would agree. But
he was only a top 20 defenseman in the world this year. Unfortunately,
he was great. Even in the Seattle series, he was great.
Yeah.
He had a couple of big time mistakes that we talked about a lot.
I mean, I think you can ding him for the game 1 mistake. The game 2 one, he literally came back and scored the game winning goal.
That's the thing, though, is that he ended up with 9 points in those 7 games.
Yep.
Whatever big mistake you're talking about him making, he was one of the few guys to help contribute on the other end of the ice as well.
Yep.
Like, he was very, very good in that series. And the complaint seems to be he wasn't perfect.
He wasn't. You're not wrong, but a weird thing to complain about. Anyway, if you want the perfect pair of sunglasses, Shady Rays got you covered. Head on over to shadyrays.com today to order yours with code DNVR. When you use the code, you get 2 pairs or more. You get 50% off your sunglasses. They got tons of different pairs, tons of different colors, tons of different styles, tons of different polarizations. Look, if you've ever wanted the burgundy tinted pair of sunglasses, you can get them now.
Yep.
So you can really look through those Avalanche lenses, all right?
It's true.
You can do that with Shady Rays. So go get yours today. When you order, they also have a great return policy. The first month, look at Yaya vibing in those sunglasses right there. Just feeling good about life. You going to wear those in Puerto Rico, Yaya? That's exactly what I'm doing. Man's about to go on vacation in those things.
Yeah, I thought you were gone already. I was surprised to see you here today. Oh, nice.
You getting the red eye. Rough. Another reason to wear those sunglasses. Make it look like you're awake when you're not. Sounds perfect to me, man. Check out Shady Rays today, shadyrays.com, or if you're local, they do have a location in the Park Meadows Mall. Also brought to you by Fubo TV. You can go to FuboTV.com/DNVR today to order yours. You get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. You can use that QR code right on screen too. Fubo just brings you television. It's a television cable network that brings you over 140 channels. They've got movies, they've got live shows, they've got TV channels, they've got News, they've got sports, obviously, with ESPN. They've got you covered there. Tons of great stuff coming up, especially when it comes to ESPN. As we move closer and closer to the full true end of hockey season, you might want to watch other sports, and that's where they've got you covered, whether it be golf, tennis.
I'm excited for the French Open, man.
Yeah, you're getting hyped on it.
I just think that there's, I mean, Djokovic is going to win, but I think that it's like men's tennis especially is sliding into a new era without
where there's no longer the juggernauts at the top.
Yeah, where those guys are at least vulnerable if they're there.
Sure.
They're vulnerable, and
it's not.
I guess women's tennis is really in the same place with Serena gone now
Serena
for a couple
retired,
years.
Yeah,
even the couple of women that have come to take the throne in recent years,
they haven't shown that sustained dominance.
Where's Naomi Osaka at this point? So
you never really got the breakout you wanted from Coco Gauff either.
Still
waiting for it, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, there's a couple of American women that are actually like
on the rise.
You're like, they're on the way, but it's like, will they get the consistency?
Sure.
So
all that can be watched with Fubo TV. So go check it out. FuboTV.com/DNVR today. Get your television back on your television. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. If you've been living under a rock, the Nuggets just made the conference finals the other night.
Last night.
Eliminating the Suns.
Very, very satisfying fashion.
It was dominant.
Straight up put them down.
Yep. It was great. This question here comes from Man Rocket, who says, not including this current playoff run, which team do you think will have more success over the next 4 years, the Nuggets or the Avs?
More success?
Yeah.
I think the Nuggets are better set up for it because every one of their starters is signed.
Is locked in, yeah.
And they look like they've got two young players in Christian Brown and Peyton Watson that could be meaningful,
step into roles for them.
Yeah.
Sure.
They need to figure out how they're going to lose Bruce Brown this summer, and they still don't have a backup center, which it's been pretty funny. It was like their big weakness, but
just play Aaron Gordon there. It's fine.
Exactly. Like, has not mattered. Thomas Bryant hadn't even touched the court in the postseason, so it just hasn't mattered. But I think with the Nuggets roster in its prime and with an all-time talent in Jokic,
yeah,
they are set up better than anybody because who in the West is also going to challenge them? We just saw the Suns.
Yeah.
With Booker and Durant. All right, they need to make major changes in order to really push the Nuggets in a series.
They're done.
They need to make major changes. The Clippers duo has never been able to stay healthy with Kawhi and PG.
Too much injury there.
The Lakers are led by an ultra brittle Anthony Davis, and LeBron
is going to be 40.
Yeah, he's been in the league for 20 years, and you just wonder like the sustainability there. Yeah. So, I think that there is. I think there's a really good chance that the Nuggets become the premier Western Conference team. And to be honest with you, I think that if everything under the sun doesn't go wrong for them next year, I think everybody needs to watch out for the Colorado Avalanche, man.
I agree with this take.
I just think even without knowing what changes they make next year,
if they just get a reasonable amount of health,
to just play 70 games with a relatively healthy roster together, even with no Landy,
just pure dominance.
They won the division this year with all this bullshit. What is going to happen if if they have a normal 200-man game loss season, like an average injury
could genuinely run away with the West?
Like they are already set up to be very, very good next year.
Yep.
We talk about, they need a 2C and they need all this. Like, they're very likely going to have Val Nichushkin back. I think, for my money, he would have been back in round 2 of the postseason.
That's what I have been hearing as well.
So, like, I think had they were going to be fine with him. I think he was going to be back. So I have no issues with him. I know Chad has already brought it up that the Avs have to plan without him or whatever, but the answer is no, they don't.
They really don't.
Not really. They're going to plan
If
for him.
anything, I would say the opposite is happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like they need to answer some questions if they're going to compete for another Stanley Cup. That's their big thing. They need to answer the second line center question, which I know we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get
but DeAndre Jordan isn't the backup center. It's Thomas Bryant. I mean, I guess you're really splitting hairs here. I guess DeAndre Jordan saw the court.
Was he technically the 5?
Well, he was, but he saw the court for like 2 seconds. One game. Like
it just really doesn't matter because the Nuggets are really playing an 8-man rotation.
Well, and
anyway,
DeAndre Jordan was benched for the entire end of the year. They went and got Thomas Bryant to take DeAndre Jordan's job.
Yep.
So anyway, like point is, I think the Nuggets have it easier because their starting 5 is one of the very best in the NBA, and it's locked in. It's set up.
Yep.
And that entire group is in its prime.
Yep.
They don't have anybody aging out of it. They don't have anybody close to aging out of it.
Not really.
I think the Nuggets' biggest concern is that Nikola Jokic someday gets bored
and decides he doesn't want to play basketball anymore.
And just decides that, because I think for Nikola Jokic, being the MVP of the being an NBA MVP is a side job.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just like this thing that he cares an awful lot about, obviously.
For now.
But he's not. You listen to him talk, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend my off day in the pool, watching my friend race horses and shit." Like, he's just such a different
breed.
That's the thing about him, is that he could leave, and that's the thing. I'm not worried about the Avs. I don't think they're going to do anything. They're not going to. McKinnon's locked up. Landy's locked up. Nichushkin's locked up. Lehkonen is locked up. They've got Rantanen and Makar for a few more years, and they're never going to let those guys.
Their core's locked.
They're
up.
never letting Cale Makar leave.
Yeah.
I don't know about Mikko Rantanen. I don't want to make a definitive statement there, but I feel like they're going to do everything they can to keep Mikko.
If you had to let go of one, it probably ends up being Mikko.
Exactly.
But I would expect them to try really hard not to do
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly, man. It would be so tough to let him go.
Yeah.
But of your McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Cale Makar, you don't let him go anywhere.
Yep. Those ones are pretty easy. A question here from DJ, which the second part is the conversation I'm more interested, even though I know AJ doesn't care about these conversations. Does Landy get his full contract payment even though he's missing the season? Yes.
Yeah.
NHL contracts are insured also, so the team does get some relief there also. And then any idea on if he'll have a temporary replacement as captain? The Avs were pretty comfortable going with the extra A all year this year, so it'll continue to be that.
They're not doing that.
My question is it set and forget at this point? A on McKinnon, A on Mikko, A on Makar?
I think it should be.
Okay.
Assuming
health.
The only guys that you would have had that conversation with, you don't know if you're bringing back, in Cogliano and Eric Johnson.
Which, we've seen both of them wear A's at times.
Yeah. So those would be the other guys that, I mean, you don't know.
I think Toews wore one once or twice when the Avs were
Toews
down
would
a
be another
million
guy.
bodies. So they've got options.
Yeah.
All right. We've beat around the bush enough here. Everyone's staring at the 2C position
Okay.
as the solution for Colorado's offseason here.
All right.
One, is it so important that the Avs need to go get a 2C over a potential high-end player at the wing position? Multiple people in the questions brought up Willie Nylander. Two,
Okay, well, he's not a center.
that's what I'm saying, is does it need to be a center or does it need to be a top 6 forward that they use Landy's money for, essentially?
I mean, that would be Tyler Bertuzzi as well. I mean,
I hear you.
Contingent that DMs me about it all the time.
Two,
There's like a handful of people that just are obsessed with that guy.
before we get into specific players, do you think it's better to target this solution through free agency or through a trade?
Well, so I guess it's who do you prioritize in that spot?
For me, like, who am I going out and getting?
Well, that's the question, because if you say, hey, we want Nick Schmaltz,
True.
well, you can only get Nick Schmaltz one way.
True.
And then you have to talk with Arizona about the price of that.
Of course.
Okay, if you're gonna go and get, I don't know, Kevin Hayes or Adam Henrique, any of these guys we talked about at the deadline,
Got to give up assets to get those guys. Yeah.
then you're going through the trade market. If you're starting in the free agent market, I mean, you're starting with Ryan O'Reilly.
Yep. The free agent market seems very obvious what the target is.
He's 32. He is still an effective player. You see what he's doing with the Leafs in the postseason in that role. I just don't. The problem with O'Reilly is that if you don't sign him, if you put all your eggs in that basket
and you lose,
you lose out on it, you're gonna have an issue.
You're
there.
left with a hole.
Yeah.
And part of what this offseason trade market looks like is, well, the Avs have a first round pick. So that decision probably gets made around the draft, not free agency.
I mean, there should be plenty of tampering going on.
Oh, there always is.
So that the Avs would have an idea of, hey, are we in on a conversation like this?
Yeah.
And you know, it's not like teams stop trading after free agency opens. It's just that you lose the certainty of right now. You know where your first round pick is going to be.
It's
like the Avs will know. But this time next week, the Avs will know what pick they have for sure.
Yep.
They will have that pick locked in.
So there are extraneous situations with holdouts that do change this a little bit, but for the most part, from July 5th, once free agency is over, to the start of the year, you usually don't see very many big trades. They usually come leading up to and during the draft, and then you get in season and they start happening.
Yeah, I mean, the Avs made famously a big trade on free agency day.
Yeah,
with Darcy Kemper.
Sure. But
so
again,
it can
after
happen,
free agency happens is where rosters
also
are
becomes it also becomes one less bullet in the gun for the Avs when it comes to a deadline deal. A lot of people in chat have already mentioned Elias Lindholm's name. I don't see. There's no. It makes no sense for Calgary to move him now,
unless they're
if it doesn't work and they get to the deadline and they're out and they're in the position St. Louis was in. Then you move that guy. And Elias Lindholm is a guy that you should be very interested in.
Calgary is in a have to try and win now mode, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Their GM and their coach are gone because there are high expectations.
Yeah.
They are not selling before they have to sell.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. We've been on the show multiple times. We've all said, both you and I, Jesse and Megan, they should probably trade the first this year.
They should strongly consider trading the first this year. And if they can get a guy that will, you would love to get a guy that solves it for a few years.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
This is for me the number one appeal of Nick Schmaltz is that he's signed for 3 years.
And so
he's a great fit. He's this and that. Now it's a fair concern that he's been playing right wing in Arizona.
Yeah, well,
he's not even playing that. He's not even doing that job down there.
This is a conversation that gets interesting because I think you're bringing up a really good point. When it comes to the center spot, you're probably going to end up using some of Landy's LTIR to solve it if you're going out and getting a big target. But where a lot of Landy's LTIR, you're probably looking at a 1-year rental type to replace that.
Yeah, or you're looking at probably using that $7 million in pieces.
Yeah. And where you're looking at the 1-year rentals is, I think, maybe a top 6 wing spot. Looking at that 2C, I would like the Avs to solve that for as long as they reasonably can. It's just been a hole in their roster, and maybe this is me looking too much at history, but before Nazem Kadri, as this team was on the up, the question mark was, they need to solve the 2C spot. The whole time, this roster, with McKinnon at the helm of it, even going back to before that with Duchesne at the helm of it. The Avs really never found a 2C before Kadri, and then obviously things worked out fantastically with Kadri, so can't complain there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, finding a good 2C is just like, it's hard to do.
of course it is,
Because
especially one that's worth their contract.
The teams that have centers don't usually want to move them.
Yep. And good 2Cs, teams try to give 1C money to see if they can do it.
Or good 2Cs go and get paid 1C money like Kadri did.
Yep.
Because they have great years.
Yep.
Like, getting good quality 2C, this would be why I'm interested in Winnipeg. Because both Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois are there. And we know, we've heard, everybody's heard all of the Dubois to Montreal when he's a free agent and whatever. But that can be next year's problem. If you get 1 year out of Dubois, do you love it? No. Like, you don't love that 1 year from now you are trying to solve that problem again. But it is also a thing that you're doing now. You go and you get that guy. I have no interest in Evgeny Kuznetsov.
That dude, yeah.
He doesn't score goals anymore. The defense is totally apathetic. The try-hard is totally gone. I'm out on Kuznetsov. I'm not interested. I think he's in the coasting out the rest of his expensive contract phase of his career.
If you asked 3 years ago, I would have said hell yeah. But I just don't know that he, especially when you look at the way the Avs are constructed, and you're probably asking your 2C to have some two-way acumen to do a little bit of that matching up for you.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want, you're not getting Nick Schmaltz.
And I'm okay with that. This is why I want Ryan O'Reilly.
Well, I think O'Reilly, I think O'Reilly is just such a great fit because you're not asking him to be a high-end offensive player. You're really fine if he goes out and gives you the same 50 points that JT Compher gave you, but he plays great defense and he's a consistent impact player for you.
Yep. Can give you quality shifts every single night.
Yeah. And you know, you're talking about, you do get a face-off ace at that point. It's not one of the primary appeals of him, but it is one of the nice benefits of having that guy. So for me, I think without knowing exactly what O'Reilly wants in terms of contract,
of course,
because that's always been the sticking point there.
He's number one on my personal list.
If that guy wants a 7-year deal at age 32, I'm probably not giving.
I'm out
that
on
to
that.
him.
5-year deal.
If he wants a 5-year deal, I think I could. I would at least be open to the conversation, but I want to know what the money is.
Yeah.
Because if it's $7 million, my answer is just no. I'm not giving him $7 million.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would rather give him a 6th year and have him take $5.5 million.
Yeah. If you can get him under 6, I mean, I think you do it.
And I just don't know. I just don't know where he is, and I don't know what his market's going to look like. He's far and away the best free agent center, I think.
Oh yeah, it's not close.
Like technically, I think Krejci and Bergeron are,
but they're retiring.
But they're like Boston or bust. Like they're not going to go anywhere.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I just think. Yeah, I mean, if Ryan O'Reilly would take the Arturi Lehkonen
zero
deal,
chance that O'Reilly would sign.
But
that.
there's not a chance in hell he would. His market will be more robust than that. He will get paid more than that.
I would be pretty surprised if O'Reilly signs for less than 6. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
it depends on term, and I get that, but
yeah. I just don't have a feel for it.
Sure.
So I don't know if we're out to lunch on this. You know, there might be a team that goes out there and gives him $8 million, and we're like, what in the world is happening?
That would not. I would be way more surprised of him signing for 5 than I would be for 8. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's 32, and he's had 2 really down years on offense.
I hear you. And I think that has brought his price down. But
I just think that he's also had more injuries than ever.
I still don't see it being less than 6. I just think he's too quality of a player. He has too much acumen and historical effect, even when he isn't producing a ton, that some team will pay him.
Yeah, and we're hoping it's Colorado. Plus, it'd be a cool story.
Yeah, the prodigal son returns a little bit. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he would never play here again or whatever. But the majority of the people that were in the front office that were involved in that whole thing
are all gone.
They're not there anymore.
Yep.
And like, would Ryan O'Reilly really be like, oh, tell Joe Sakic I said, suck it. I'm never playing for his organization again. Like, maybe he feels that way. But I know he and McKinnon have maintained their friendship.
Yep. I would not trade Byram for Mason McTavish in a million years. By
Really?
the way. No, wouldn't do it.
Why?
Because Byram plays defense.
Okay. I thought it was an interesting idea.
I have no interest in that.
I thought it was an interesting idea because Mason McTavish is going to be a really, really good NHL player.
I hear you, but so is
and
Bowen Byram.
putting him in at 2C.
You've just taken the hole and you've taken it from your 2C and then plugged it into your defense now. That's my problem with that.
Yeah, but you can get second pairing defenders. As long as the prerequisite for that is you have to keep Devon Taves.
Okay. Because I was going to say,
you can't do both.
If you're trading Devon Taves for Mason McTavish, I'm about it.
Yeah, that's stupid from Anaheim's
I know.
Like, it makes no sense.
There's no reason for them to buy a rental. But I don't want to give up the future of this D-core for the future of the forward core. It feels like you're just moving holes around your roster. Because you say you can get a second pairing defenseman. I think that's true the same way you can get a 2C.
I think it's a lot harder to get a 2C than it is a second pairing defenseman. Because you could roll into free agency right now this year and get Damon Severson or Ryan Graves out of New Jersey.
I mean, Severson I would be interested in, but I would prefer to maintain a solid defense. We'll put it that way. We are brought to you by Illegal Pete's. Make sure you're getting your delicious burritos while you listen to us rant about how important defense is or is not. They got fresh ingredients, all the good stuff at 10 different locations here in Colorado, including one just a couple blocks from the DNVR bar. You can get your stuff there. Pre-game from 3 to 6 p.m. at their happy hour before you come down to the bar, or you can vibe for whatever sports you enjoy. Highly recommend Illegal Pete's if you haven't been to one yet. They even have a location out in Arizona, so no excuses, PHNX fam. If you're in here, you got to get Illegal Pete's too. And then we're brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, #1 rated sportsbook app out there. Use code DNVR when you sign up with DraftKings and a new account. Bet $5 on any NBA playoff game. If you get it right, you get $150 in free bets. That's a ton of money to mess around with. You can play with whatever you want. If you're a Florida Panthers fan like we are right now, you can bet on them to win the Cup. You probably still get pretty decent odds on them, even at this point. Or you can bet on whatever else you want. If you think someone's going to win the Conn Smythe, do that. If you want to get out of hockey, bet on other stuff, go off. You can bet on the French Open or bet on whatever random sport happens to be on any given day. You can bet on the Rapids to stop having players taking money to cheat on the field.
That's not going to happen anytime. Julius might get a lifetime ban.
Yikes.
Probably should.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if it was like extortion too, because it's only 12K. Like, it was the Brazil mob.
Yikes.
So,
Crazy story, man.
Yeah,
in the soccer
some
world. That's
crazy
a crazy
stuff,
story.
really.
Rapids were like in the middle of it because that's the most vulnerable players.
Yoy. Glad I'm not the Rapids right now. Go to DraftKings. Use the DNVR code. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See the show notes down below for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And it's all void in Ohio. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. AJ, I'm sure we'll talk about this more.
Chat's having the Jonathan Taves conversation right now, and I'm curious where you stand on this. Do you have an interest in? Because when we talk about spending the $7 million multiple ways, you know, you could
Definitely a multi-way to chop it up.
Well, and so say you give Jonathan Taves $2 million, you give Jonathan Drouin $2 million.
So
You give Evan Rodriguez
I want to talk
$3
about
million,
him too.
you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation. Also, one, do you believe in Jonathan Toews? I think he could be a serviceable 2C. I don't know if he'd be a good one.
My answer is no.
Fair
I don't
enough.
believe him as a believe in him as a 2C.
Two,
I would be a little more comfortable trying him out as your 3C, and then bring Lars Eller back to be your 4C.
I am here for that. Does Toews want to sign a 1-year deal?
I think he has to.
Because I don't want him for more than one.
I just don't know that. I mean, I guess I every time I feel this way, Dallas gives a guy a 4-year deal, but I don't know that he's going to get multiple years. Just he has no track record. He hasn't stayed healthy. He's openly contemplated retirement. Like if he goes into free agency, I think he's getting a 1-year deal, man. I just don't. If somebody gives him 2 years, I don't know. Maybe it goes well.
That's what I always think too. And then free agency happens. And
I'm not giving him a 2-year deal. If it's 2 years, my answer is no.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't give him a 2-year deal. I don't care how interested
I think
would be.
these things, and then free agency happens, and NHL GMs lose their minds. Every year it happens.
I would be interested in having him in a 3C role, a little more of a proper job than what he's had in Chicago the last couple of years, where it's obvious he doesn't have that. He's not that guy anymore.
I would be very interested in that role as well for him. The problem is that hasn't solved your problem.
For sure. I mean, my Taves conversation is separate from the 2C, where
Fair enough.
I would also like to do this.
So let's get into the other part of this conversation that you were kind of needling at, because we had multiple
Drouin?
people asking about Jonathan Drouin.
Okay.
One, what does his contract look like if he comes to Colorado? I know you've talked about the $2 million for a year type area before.
Yeah. So again, you're talking about a guy that has no recent track record. Mm-hmm. This could be the same thing. Another name, and we didn't like him at the deadline for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But another guy that I would throw on this list would be Sean Monahan. Where if you're trying to get bounce back guys here.
If you can get them
You're
on
trying to
an
get-
affordable short term.
It's exactly the kind of guys that you need to be signing.
Yep.
You need to try and get a win out of $1 million or $2 million deal.
You have to be
the
cost
same
efficient.
exact way
Yeah.
that they did with Evan Rodriguez. They need to do that again. They need to find surplus value out of a guy like that. They just need to be right about that guy. So
certainly
with
right
the
enough.
the idea with Jonathan Drouin is that look, when he was healthy, he was pretty good.
Well, then a guy that can drop in and facilitate a little bit to a guy like a Mikko Rantanen or a
Does he solve your goal scoring problem?
No.
He's more playmaker than goal scorer, but at the same time, if you can get him healthy, and he seems to have moved past whatever the mental health stuff has been over the last few years. It looks like he's on the other side of those things. But you need to do your homework and make sure that you're confident in that. You don't look. He played 58 games last year. 58 games is enough. You're trying to sign a guy to play 82 games. And you'll live with 70.
Yeah, I would say,
but
you can live with 70 if you're healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing with a Drouin is that you have to be comfortable with the risk that you're taking. But where is he going to get again? Where is he going to get a multi-year deal? And he's still young enough. Okay, he's still in his 20s. Why would a 1-year deal appeal to Jonathan Drouin?
Because he can go play in Colorado for 1
You
year,
go
score 60
play.
points, and then get a real contract.
You go play in an up-tempo system that allows you to play with a good offensive players. He's not a great defensive player, but he'll be on a line with one of Arturi Lehkonen or Val Nichushkin, presumably. He might be on the top line next to Nathan McKinnon.
There'd at least be some rotation in there, yeah.
Like, he could be on a second line next to Mikko Rantanen.
So
And they break them up here. This is the appeal here, is that he could kind of he's going to fit into your top six. The guy could fit into your third line if you wanted.
So you're bringing up another interesting question that we got. I forget who it was that said it. I'm sorry, whoever you are on Twitter. Should the Avs target options in this free agency and trade market, whatever, under the assumption that McKinnon and Rantanen are playing together? Or should they start looking for targets where potentially Mikko is playing next to that 2C that you're going out and getting?
You need to answer the 2C question in order to answer that question.
Okay.
Because right now, if you don't have the 2C, you're putting those guys together. Because as we saw at the end of the Seattle series, it's just the best way. It's just the best way to go about it. You would love to get that 2C and then maybe have the conversation of breaking them up. For me, I think you bring back Evan Rodriguez. I would try and bring him back quickly.
Oh, for sure. Assuming he wants a reasonable contract,
Yeah.
I think you're very interested.
I mean,
there.
if he'll take a deal in that $3 to $3.5 million range at 3 or 4 years,
give him
that's what I
JT
wanna
Compher's deal right now.
give. Okay, yeah, the 4 years at 3.5, I would give him that offer and just see how it goes. Yeah.
Yep.
If he says no, okay. But I would say that plan for having Rantanen and McKinnon together to start with until you start
Okay.
filling it out.
So you're solving that the other way. You're solving that 2C to Mikko rather than Mikko to 2C.
Correct. Now, if I get to the end of the market,
At a certain point.
yeah, if I get through all these different options and the best option is I'm going to go and get, again, just as an example, a Tyler Bertuzzi or a wing, Willie Nylander, whatever. I'm going to go and get a wing.
Insert the guy you like
and
here,
then
yeah.
move Mikko to 2C and try that. Okay. I
Don't
really
love it.
don't think Mikko's a center,
Me
man.
either.
I really just don't think
either.
that it's there. He hasn't looked as good there. He's been serviceable. Why would you settle for serviceable when as a wing, he's a borderline dominant player?
A Hall of Famer on the wing.
Like, it's just dumb.
Yep.
It's the same kind of thing of all the people that think Sam Girard should be made into a wing.
No, it's not happening.
It's just a total misreading of it.
Chat, if you have any specific questions, I would start getting them in now as we start winding down the show. One non-hockey related question here.
I would, for the record, I would be so interested in the Jonathan Drouin thing that I'd give him multiple years. If he wanted 2 years.
I'd give him 2. I don't know that I'd go more than 2.
No. I'm not giving him a long-term deal, but I'm saying I would give him a 2-year
If
deal.
he wants
to
like
give
a
him
2x2, absolutely.
something like that. I think it just makes the most sense for him to go to a high-scoring environment on a 1-year deal.
No, I agree.
Try to stay healthy, try
If he
to pop
wants
off,
to-
and then get a long-term
If he
deal
wants to
from there.
get that long-term deal, yeah, that from the player side, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
What video games are you guys dipping your toes into this offseason? Diablo or Zelda?
Well, I'm going home today and playing the Diablo Server Slam.
There you go. Zelda just dropped, so
I don't play the Zelda games. They've never really been my thing.
fine.
I've beaten 3 or 4 of them.
me and Gorgo play them without you. It's fine.
Yeah, he's burning through Zelda right now.
Yeah, I know.
because he has to go to Super Mario World in California, and then he flies straight from California here for the release of Diablo.
So he's got busy schedule.
Yeah. He has 10 days to play Zelda.
Get it in while
Yeah,
you can.
I'm
dog.
like, oh my god.
I'm playing a bunch of Honkai Star Rail, which maybe one person in our chat will know what that is, but that's okay.
For the record, Alex Killorn I think would be interesting, but
He's not young, man.
yeah, he's not young, and really, like, I don't know what that contract looks like, but you're not getting him cheap enough for it to matter. So I just don't think that that's a great fit. Although I wouldn't hate that if that's what they did. I would at least be open to it.
Is there any thoughts on trading Frankie to help shore up the forward court and move Eustace up to the NHL?
No, because that gives you $1 million.
Yeah,
the difference between Pavel Francouz and Eustace Onanen right now is gigantic.
Yeah, Eustace isn't really fully ready, I would say. And I don't think Frankie has a ton of trade value. If you're talking about more than just the money, like if you're trying to trade an asset, I don't think Frankie really moves the needle a ton.
I mean, if you could get look, I've said this before, but if San Jose called you up and said they will offer you a 2nd-round pick for Pavel Francouz, and that pick is like that pick's like 37 or something.
I don't know. What does a 2nd-round pick really do for Colorado?
Well, that's an asset that they can then turn around and use.
Well,
They could use a
it's
first
fair.
and a second round pick this year in a trade for maybe a Nick Schmaltz,
And I do think,
knowing that they have no second round picks for the next 3 years.
and I do think the season you got out of Georgiev maybe gives you a little bit more belief in him being the guy at starter. So maybe you're a little bit more open to that this year. But I just don't know that. I wouldn't be super interested in moving on from Frankie unless it was good value. I'll put it that way.
I mean, I think a high second round pick is probably
Worth it.
I think it's as high a value as you're going to get for that.
And I feel like you're going through a middleman then. If you can get a high second round pick value, why not just put him into a trade for an actual piece that helps you directly?
Well, let me ask you okay, what if San Jose offered the late first that they have? That's like 28th or whatever.
I mean, it's essentially the same value, really, right? I do think firsts are more tradable, even if those picks really are only 8 picks apart. I think
They're 8 picks apart.
Yeah,
though. I mean, that could be meaningful.
for sure. I would have a harder time saying no to that. I'll put it that way, but I'd have to think about it. Instead, I'm going to move on to this next question.
All right.
Do you think if the Avs go out and get a productive winger and give Newhook 2C job and try that, so they can't just give Newhook the 2C job and let it ride because he didn't show enough this year to just
need
give
a
him
backup
that?
plan. To be honest with you, Newhook should be your backup plan at 2C.
That's where I'm at too. Yeah.
next year. But also, and again, this is the other thing with Evan Rodriguez. If you bring him back, he can also be part of your backup plan at 2C if something doesn't go well.
It just creates flexibility in
Exactly.
the lineup generally.
Yep.
At that point, Laugh would be interesting, but it's hard to call that guy a solution to your problems.
Well, and where does Lafreniere play? Like next year, he would play in your ideally in your top 6, and he would hopefully play on your power play. And
Yep.
he would get the opportunity he wasn't getting in New York, but it does not.
But if you go out and get that guy and he remains a 40-point player, he's not.
You're fine,
But
like,
it's
he's
not
a good
solving
player.
your problem.
But what did you pay to get him? Because I don't think that they're going to give him up cheaply. Like I suggested their first round pick, and their opinions on this are obviously meaningless. But the Rangers fans who saw that tweet were not happy with it.
What would it take to bring in a guy like Troy Terry? Anaheim's not trading Troy Terry, so don't worry about it.
I mean, I think they should consider it.
But they're not gonna.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, why? You're trying to build.
Yep.
I understand he doesn't fit like their window, the same way Nick Schmaltz doesn't really fit Arizona's window.
Yep.
But you need to build at some point. You need to start building guys up.
I think there's probably too many years left on the Logan Couture deal. I want to say
Yeah,
there's
and
3
my answer
years
is no,
left
thank
on it.
you. I would call about Tomas Hertl before I did Couture.
If there was 1 year left on his deal, I think it could be interesting, but I just think that deal's too long.
I would call about Tomas Hertl.
I would call about Hertl as well. I think he would be interesting, and he would solve that problem indefinitely
Forever,
for you
yeah.
if you went out and
For the
got-
rest of this era.
Yeah. Oh,
You'd
God,
probably have to
yeah.
lose a defender, though.
Yeah, there's 4 years left on that Couture deal, and he's 34. Yeah, that's a no. That's a no for me, dog. Did you guys see the AI-generated NHL mascots? I saw the
No,
NFL ones. I don't know.
I don't care about any
The
of this.
trend of AI-generated stuff I'm very over. It was cool for like a week. Now everything's AI-generated, and all of them are just off. Someone asked about the Pietrangelo hack the other day. I mean, I think he arguably deserved more than a game. It was pretty blatantly nothing but an intent to injure a player. No room for it. Very stupid.
What about Blake Wheeler? I mean, I would have an interest in Vlad Tarasenko in free agency. I would have that interest.
Totally. Again,
Sorry,
you know,
I would.
Is someone paying him $8 million? I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think that's
If someone's
happening.
paying him 5.5, yo, you can have that conversation.
My answer on Patrick Kane, just personally, is no.
Yeah.
The answer is just no.
Yep.
He's such a brutal defensive player at this point in his career. All of those on-ice results are too extreme for me to be comfortable with. So my answer would be no.
I just don't think he makes sense for Colorado. Again, circling back to part of why I want O'Reilly so much is the Avs are looking for players in their top 6 that help round them out. You're trying to replace some of what you had in Landeskog.
And what you're going to lose with JT Compher.
Also true.
You're going to lose a decent defensive center there.
Yep.
So, we talked about the Canes earlier.
Yep.
I don't know what you want about Blake Wheeler. He's old, he's expensive, and he's bad.
It's Scheifele's is the one,
and he's
going
mad
to get.
selfish.
Yep.
So, what exactly would possibly be the interest there?
I think anyone on the Jets would be more interested.
Even
in
at a half retained, he's going to cost you $4 million, and I don't know that he would live up to that. So, no. The answer is no on DeBrincat.
Yeah.
Defenseman, I mean, I would look. I mean, obviously, I've talked about it a million times.
Carson Soucy.
I would be interested in Carson Soucy. Calvin DeHaan's going to be a free agent again. That's kind of where I would start, is with those couple of guys.
I just don't.
I wonder how the team feels about Josh Manson right now.
How healthy will he be?
Well, and like, are they willing to let it ride with him because he just had such a poor finish to the year?
Sure.
What kind of taste is that leaving in everybody's mouth? Or are they just like, it was a totally lost year for this guy, we're just going to run it back with him?
That's more where I'm at with it. And to me, like, do the Avs need to address the defensive position? Yeah, they probably do need to go out and get at least a bottom pairing guy.
Well, they really need 2.
Sure. But
is that Eric Johnson at $1 million?
Right. You bring Jack Johnson back if you really want to. There are options there. And I think that's much less of a problem that you solve. Your focus should be figuring out the 2C top 6, whatever you're going to do there first, and then you can go get your extra defenseman, whatever.
Yeah,
you want
well, and it's hard because they're all tied together. Like, you only have so much money to spend. You know, your multi-year money is pretty limited. You've got $20 million to spend for this upcoming season.
Yep.
But you don't have that money to spend for next season, too.
Right. So you do have to be...
And you have to worry about, you need a Devon Taves extension.
Careful.
You do expect Landeskog to come back.
You can't be handing out multi-millions for years and years here.
Yeah. Like, you've got to be careful. That's the thing with the O'Reilly. Like, if that's your one multi-year deal, you know...
Yeah.
Then you're going to struggle to keep Evan Rodriguez.
For sure.
You know, even if in a world where the numbers that we talked about yesterday, if they got Byram for 3.5 on 2 years and Newhook for 2,
yep.
All right, that's $5.5 million right there.
You're already down to 14.5.
You're down to 14.5. Let's say that you get a 3x3 out of Evan Rodriguez.
So you're down to 11 and
now
a
you're
half.
down to 11. All right, now you give $6 million to Ryan O'Reilly. All right, now you're down to 5.
Yep.
You haven't even touched your depth defense yet.
Yep.
The money goes quickly.
It does. It always does. I mean, JTC's from Chicago, right? But he'll end up whoever pays him the most, I suspect.
Yeah, I don't know why Detroit would do that. They already gave Andrew Kopp that money.
I
think Detroit. I think him going to Chicago to be the 2C behind Connor Bedard is it just makes too much sense.
Yep.
They have too much money to spend. They won't need to spend it on any of their young players.
Yeah.
The fat contracts.
They're not up yet.
During the life of whatever JT Compher's contract is going to be. So the money just doesn't matter. They can bring the local kid home, and he can go and be like their championship experience guy there.
Yep. Can you see a world in which Scheifele gets traded to the Avs? Definitely could happen. I don't know that it will.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what Winnipeg's appetite for making major changes would be.
Yep.
Filipino's just got locked down in the Rangers for the Rangers.
Staying in New York.
That's the guy on the kid. He's the one that drives the kid line.
Yep. Okay. I think we have one super chat, and then we can wrap up this show. $5 from Melanie, who says, "Have a great weekend." Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it.
You too.
Yeah. It's been a pretty good show. I think we've answered most of the questions. So
Yeah. I mean, it just goes really quickly.
it does.
You know, I mean, the money just disappears really fast when you're even if you're like, hey, you bring Cogliano back at $1 million, you bring EJ back at $1 million, you bring Jack Johnson back at $1 million. Even if that's what you did, boom. Those are all important jobs that you need filled, but that's $3 million that you've spent.
It's hard, and teams in the Avs situation, teams that are in the middle of cup windows that are trying to win now, have to be very, very careful about not painting yourself into a corner when it comes to contracts like these.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you end up in situations where you're giving away players for free, like Vegas. And that's how you close a window a lot faster than it should.
Well, and if you, I mean, you just can't give them away, right? Like, if you are looking to make a deal,
You have to find
there
value.
are guys that you could move. You know, you could move a Sam Girard if you needed to.
Right.
You're not wanting to.
And the Avs aren't anywhere near that spot. That
and
Vegas
you're
was
certainly
in.
not giving him away for future considerations.
No.
It's so that would be so
You're just
unbelievably stupid.
wasting so much that way. Anyway, a topic for another day. We're going to get out of here for today. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us in this offseason. We got 5 more shows coming for you next week, so keep it locked in here. Probably more draft stuff. I have no doubt we'll get into the nitty-gritty on some of the free agency stuff as well. So
Yeah, it'll be cool when they have an actual draft pick. We can kind of get into the
actual minutia of it a little bit. Yeah.
we can talk about the history of that pick, what teams have been able to find.
Bring me bonk. Bring me bonk. We appreciate y'all, and we will see you on Monday.